Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Morhonda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard on this Friday of week one for college football, and I am here for it, ready for it to get going. Last night, there were some good games, surprisingly good games that didn't see coming. The Colorado and North Dakota State, I did, as you remember. The North Dakota State, South Dakota State, always great programs. They were leading Colorado and Dion at halftime, and eventually they flexed their muscles enough to come out with the win. North Carolina State ranked in the top 25, down most of the game to Western Carolina before they pull it out. So some fun stuff already in the offing, and then more games coming tonight. Then, of course, tomorrow things really get kicked off as the rest of the nation, besides those who are playing on Sunday and Monday, get going to wrap up week one. Welcome aboard. Appreciate you being with us. Big program lined up today. Todd Leary will join us. Indiana basketball with a reunion this weekend, in addition to the fact that Jalan Haralson will be visiting. We'll also have Zac Osterman on. We'll talk football. Then Mitchell Paige and Jeffrey the Greek as we go full bore into the college football weekend, getting our picks out and everything else that we could get lined up. Hope that you had a great week. Ready for the weekend? Because I am. I'm ready for this weekend, or this weather to cool down tomorrow when this cold front, or no, I shouldn't call it a cold front, but it's a storm front, whatever you want to call it. I guess you could call it a cold front because it's going to cool things down. So I'm excited for that. Looking forward to it. Some ironic, James Madison is scheduled to play Charlotte this weekend. Just the irony there for me. Charlotte on Indiana's schedule, week 4 opponent. James Madison, with all they've lost, they're still an 8-point favorite over Charlotte. So that tells you how bad Charlotte must be. Steph Curry signs a 1-year extension, 1 year for $62 million. Holy smokes. Ohtani, he ties A-Rod at 42 and 42 in the majors with 42 homers, 42 stolen bases. That's the highest mark ever in Major League Baseball history. Looking forward to talking to Todd Leary, as well as I'm texting him right now. He just sent me a text, but hope that your weekend, who's going to the games or going to any games? Did you go to a high school game? What's your weekend set up to be like? Don't forget to go to the oh my goodness, what am I trying to think of? ESPN's fantasy site, where we have our college pick'em set up. And I have yet to make mine yet, but I need to do that before I forget. But make sure you get those in. And let's see. Here we go. I'm going to pull mine up, see what the games are, as a matter of fact. Where is it? The college pick'em. All right. I think I may have picked a game or two, but that's it. I was making sure that hopefully that none of last night's games were on there. But, or did I? I think it looks like I already picked. Oh, I picked some of mine. The first game on there keeps changing. Penn State, a 10.5-point favorite over West Virginia. Then you've got Virginia Tech, also a 10.5-point favorite over Vanderbilt. Georgia, Clemson. That one keeps climbing up. Georgia now a 13.5-point favorite. Oklahoma State and South Dakota State. That one may have dropped. Oklahoma State's a 7.5-point favorite. Watch out for those Jackrabbits, man. Like I said, North Dakota State last night giving Colorado all they wanted. The next game on the dais. Don't forget now, these are with the spread. Ohio State is a 50.5-point favorite over Akron. Then you've got Texas and Colorado State, which is a 36.5-point favorite. Alabama, Western Kentucky, Michigan, Fresno State, Texas A&M, and Notre Dame. And then the final one on there, the New Mexico Lobos travel to the Arizona Wildcats, who have a brand new coach because their coach is in Washington now. You need a scorecard to keep up with everything. All kinds of things going on. So lots to talk about. But, of course, mostly football. Last night, everything like I said, not getting underway. It was already underway with week 0. But last night was some multiple games that were fun and worthy of watching. Some sad news. Blue Jackets winger Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew were killed when they were struck by a vehicle while riding as pedal cyclists, according to New Jersey State Police. He was only 31. Very, very sad deal for that. Other games last night in the realm of the Big Ten, Minnesota taking on North Carolina. And bad news for North Carolina, their new quarterback was carted off the field with a hip injury in the third quarter, even though they were able to pull out a 19-17 win over Minnesota in Minneapolis. And I'm glad I didn't have that game. I would have lost that game. I would have taken Minnesota at home and because North Carolina was actually, I think that ended up being a push. I think that was like a 2-point game. But Johnson transferred to North Carolina from Texas A&M this past season and won the starting job. And now he is off the injury in the first game. See, that's the thing. When we talk about the excitement for Indiana and their season up ahead, things can change in an instant. And for Minnesota, they have. I mean, for North Carolina, they have, but they have other quarterbacks, and the fact that it's early in the season, big help for them. So it's rather happen now. And Ed pointed out Minnesota missed a last-second field goal that could have won that game for them. That's got to stink, especially when you're at home. But don't forget to make those picks. That's right. Chris, all from Wotton, England. Hello. It's deep in the afternoon there. Lots of people jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, and you're welcome to do so as well on the YouTube channel, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. But, ready to get this week 1 into the books and after it. But also, we've got basketball to talk about. Like I said, Todd Leary will be joining us, and Indiana basketball has a reunion this weekend that should be pretty cool for a lot of the players that can get back. It will be interesting to see who all does come back. A big weekend for visits for Indiana football as well, as they have a ton of guys that are coming in for a visit. Let's see. Let me get that pulled up. The number of guys, it's a lot. Like nearly 40. Some of them have already committed. I'd say about a dozen are commits that have already happened. But that's a lot of guys. When you think about basketball, and they'll usually have 3 guys in at the max, maybe 4 sometimes on a rare occasion. 4. You're dealing with 4 guys. That's very, very manageable. Then I look down and see that there are like 40 coming in for football. I know that football is a much larger sport, much larger roster. Doesn't matter. You still have to manage 40 guys coming in and their families. So just imagine that. Having to deal with it's like having a family reunion or Thanksgiving at your house or something, and all that, those extra people coming. Who in the world would want to have to deal with that and do all the cooking and all the things that go along with that? But Ed says a Colorado player spin the ball in the end zone after a touchdown. There wasn't a penalty called. Is this a new rule change? Great question, because I noticed the same thing, Ed. And not just that, I saw them celebrating often. And it was Travis Hunter, who, that dude has got to be at the top of a Heisman Trophy list, first of all. I mean, my goodness, what he did last night alone, but he's playing both ways again, but making spectacular plays, spectacular catches. But that's a great question. I saw the same thing. I saw the celebration going on in the end zone of sorts, and the referee just kind of turning away, and I'm like, that's a little unusual. So great question, but we'll have to work on finding that out. Hey, we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Todd Leary will join us next. We're back with more, including basketball and football, to talk about after this.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Friday. We're glad to have you, as well as our good friend Todd Leary. How are you, sir?
I am great. It's a beautiful Friday. Fantastic.
Well, it'll be a lot more beautiful if that cold front comes through either early tomorrow morning that I'm praying for, because holy cow, after having one of the most incredible summers of my lifetime, that heat box, it was hot.
I love it. I love the heat. I hate the cold, so I'm not complaining about the heat. It has been scorching, though, yeah.
Yeah, there is that. Was out last night at Hoosier Hanks East for the first football game coaches show, and Coach Signetti was only there for about 10 minutes because they've changed practice to the nighttime, and he had to leave to go to practice because of the heat. So as we look ahead, the game one coming up this weekend. But before that, Indiana basketball having a big reunion this weekend, and looking forward to seeing who all will come in for that. I know that everyone can't always make it back, but they seem like they're making kind of a bigger deal of it. This is the first time I recall it happening during football season. Is that? I mean, you know it more than anybody.
I have no idea what you're talking about, so I can tell you they're not trying too hard to get a hold of people, because I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, well, there's that. All right.
I hate to be that way about it, but I mean, I have no idea. They haven't contacted me about anything.
Well, they better get on the stick. Jalan Haralson in for a visit this weekend as well.
That I did see. That makes it a big basketball weekend for sure.
Yeah, Jalan, probably I guess you'd have to say he has to be their number one target, even though Braylon Mullins is up there very high as well. But the difference is Jalan Haralson might be a one and done. I'm not, with his talent, his size, and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you necessarily classify him as your first option. I think in today's recruiting, I think you kind of have to throw that net out there, and hopefully you get a couple of guys. Maybe I don't know. I get what you're saying, and it makes sense. I think in the past you've always had, I think, maybe top targets that you go after. It's just a little different when these guys are rated as highly as they are. When you got Sicily and Mullins and Harrelson, all from the state of Indiana, you hope to get. If you get two of those guys, you've won big time, and you've got to get one of them to commit right off the bat, and then hopefully that makes one of the other ones come in. So yeah, he's one of those players. He's a little different than both Sicily and Mullins. So they're all kind of, even though height wise they're very similar, they're all kind of a little different players. So yeah, he's a big time target that I think a lot of schools are looking at as one of their top guys they're going after.
And if I do have it correct, and there is some kind of gathering, and if they can get some of the former guys in, I would think that that's a good weekend to have someone like that in on a visit.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, just the football weekend itself makes it awesome, makes it a big deal. To what you want when you've got a kid like that is you want to show them why your school is different and why your school has support and all that. And that's something that Indiana basketball has never really had a problem with. The fan support's always there. When he goes out to dinner this week at different places, I mean, fans will be in town for the football game. They'll recognize him. There'll be a lot of people say stuff to him. That honestly is the important part. That's what it's all about. Former players and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, if it's guys that, that are in the NBA or that have a long history in the NBA or something like that, it might be a big deal. I mean, former players that, are in kind of my category, I don't necessarily know that that's that big a deal to someone. But, if you get guys like, L. Frank, like guys that were managers and stuff like that, that are, running NBA teams and franchises, yeah, that can be a big deal. And that's what can separate your program from some of the others.
Absolutely. And while there are others, Indiana is not going to prioritize one guy over another because you can't. You have to make everyone feel as important as the other because you have to have them all. You can't just land the one guy. So there's always that balance act that you have to perform.
And like the way that these teams are made up. I mean, I think I always use Kentucky as the example because they were kind of the new age of what what Michigan did back with when they brought 5 guys in and all of that. Like when you get guys, you need to find guys that can play together, honestly. And that truly is what in college basketball has been successful. And getting highly rated guys and guys that are incredibly talented, but also can fit in and play with the other guys that are on your roster. Those are the guys you really want to target and go after. And that's what you're trying to do is build an actual team, not just put a bunch of all-stars out there on the floor. And hopefully, that's why I always refer back to Sicily because I think Sicily, maybe even though he's not as highly rated as Mullins and Haralson, he's more of a glue guy, in my opinion. And I think that makes him just as valuable, if not more valuable, than even guys that are rated higher than him.
Well, I can tell you this. If people think that Indiana doesn't want Trent Sisley nearly as badly as anybody else, they're off the rocker. And I've said that multiple times. And I'll say this. I have heard a comment from someone close to the program that said a quote, "I don't want to have to play against him for 4 years." That tells you enough right there. They want him just like they want everybody else. They're different levels. These guys are playing different positions. They're going to provide different things to the team for different amounts of time.
Yeah. And like one of the I guess results of today's media market and the way that things go down in recruiting is because a guy is so highly rated. So a year ago this time, I think everyone would have said, yes, Jalan Haralson's probably the top recruit. And then Sicily's probably the next top recruit for Indiana that they're going after. But then when Braylon Mullins had such a big summer and jumped up so high in all of the ratings, all of a sudden then us as fans and media people started thinking that maybe he was more highly recruited or going to be more highly recruited than Sicily. And honestly, that's not true. That's not necessarily always how it works. I think when these guys start stacking offers together and when those offers come from the likes of Kansas and Duke and Kentucky and those places, I think that's when, a guy's stock really goes up and fans start to get more excited about the possibility of a guy like that coming there. But Indiana fans will happily and be really excited about being able to root for any of these 3 guys that are from the state of Indiana coming to an Indiana uniform.
Absolutely. And man, oh man, are they going to be jacked up this year because they're excited about football as well as basketball, as well as women's basketball. You've got a solid soccer program that's solid every year. So this should be one hell of a fall and you've seen the rise of the volleyball program. Indiana fans should have a lot to crow about this fall.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think kind of the catalyst for all of that, and I've said this for years, and I've obviously never been a part of the football program, but if you just look at it in general, schools have an easier time being successful in other sports when the football program is good. And I think that proves itself. I mean, look at Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia and all of those places. Like, all of their other sports benefit when their football program is really good. And that is something that Indiana consistently hasn't always had the opportunity to be in that category. And the excitement level is in that category right now. Hopefully, and I think that we all think that it will, but the product that goes out there that starts tomorrow afternoon is going to back up everyone's excitement. And that doesn't mean they have to win 11 or 12 games this year for it to be a super successful season. But I think it does mean that this team's got to come out and put on a product on the field that everyone's excited to watch, and it's fun, and we're not all sitting here complaining about play calling and offensive line coaches and everything else like we've done for the last however many years. And so I think that's what a lot of people are excited about. And as a former athlete at that level at Indiana, I can tell you we always enjoyed it more and had more fun in school when our football team was good. And that's something I hope that these guys get a chance to be a part of.
Yeah, I can't imagine just school wide. I mean, it starts the year off. If that is the case, if it turns out to be how we're thinking it's going to be, that's going to feed into basketball and make that maybe even more of a frenzy, which it's already a frenzy every year. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, should be a fun year, and it's a hell of a lot more fun to cover a winner. Let me tell you, everybody's happier. The coaches are happier. Last night when Coach Signetti walked into Hoosier Hanks East and he was loose and Jeff Kegg was there, and I'm like, boy, he seems a lot more relaxed. And Jeff just kind of laughed and said, oh, yeah. So it's funny how he's gone from that bound up feeling in the beginning to he's just relaxed right now.
Well, and, so far up to this point, he can check all the boxes off in things that he wanted to accomplish. He renewed the excitement in the fan base when it comes to the football program, and that was probably job number one. That was probably going to be the hardest. And then after that, like, I can tell you this, in talking to Don Fisher and Scott Dolson, as friends, not as what their jobs are, I see a different level of excitement in those guys than what I have seen in past coaching changes and regimes and staffs and all of that. And when you see Fish as excited as he is, going through all of the different coaches and program changes that he's seen over the years, when he gets this excited, I look forward to what's going to be out there on the field, because Fish doesn't overstate things very often, and he's pretty excited about this football program. So that in and itself makes me pretty excited about what they could potentially get to.
Absolutely. And what this team can do at the end of the year. So it's a lot. It's easy to put that stuff ahead because last night you got a taste. If you watch the Colorado game, North Dakota State, they're never a pushover, but they were leading at halftime. North Carolina State, who's ranked in the top 25, they were losing almost into the fourth quarter to Western Carolina. So it's these first weeks, they can be a little rough sometimes.
Yeah, and like the ratings don't mean anything until you get out there on the field and start to prove it. And I think with the new college football playoff expansion and having more teams, I think teams aren't living and dying. Their whole season's not over if they lose here on week one. And so that makes it kind of fun and exciting. And I'm really looking forward to, you've got to be, just thrilled. I mean, you go all summer long and, you don't really have a specific sport to cover. And now, you're one day away from having an actual game to cover. And then all of next week, you'll be dominated by talking about what we got to see and what we look forward to in the coming week. And so that's for all the fans of these college teams, like, it's just, this is an exciting time of year. Like, we kind of sat through the whole summer with nothing to watch, and now this is what it's all about. This is the fun part, fantasy football and all of that. This is just where a sports person's dream starts right now.
It's where the rubber meets the road, baby.
That's right.
It's where the rubber meets the road. I'll never forget that. Daggone it! Any Given Sunday, and the producer of that, he put himself in as the announcer in that movie, and I'm like, not good, but I will never forget him making that phrase. But Todd's a big football fan, people.
I love it.
Well, you should go into the ESPN fantasy tab, and there is Indiana Sports Beat has a group pick out. It's against the spread. Doesn't cost anything. It's free, but we'll see what you can do against the rest of the peeps.
All right, I'll do it.
If you win, we'll send you to dinner somewhere. We'll do something good.
I like to eat.
Something. He does like to eat, and he does not like to cook. Those are two things I
Bingo.
know about Todd Leary.
Bingo.
His middle name is Take Out.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that because I'm a big fan of that myself, but I do cook a lot. But regardless of that, speaking of cooking, I'm glad the temperatures are supposed to subside this weekend, especially as we get into all these games on Saturday. Most of the games yesterday were last night, so that helps some. And then going into Saturday, at least here, there's supposed to be a storm front move through early in the morning. Hopefully those get out of the way and it will not affect the tailgating because there's a lot going on. A lot of new stuff at the stadium, Todd. You've got a Buffalo Louie's out there, Avery's Pizza out there. Of course, you've got Upland Beer out there, but they all have their own concession areas, the concession stands that are on the outside of the, daggone it. What do you call that? Where you walk around? I'm never out there, so I don't know. But anyway, each concession stand is kind of named like Buffalo Louie's has their own, Avers has their own. That should make not only the experience, Yogi's, that should make the experience better, but also the line should be shorter, I would think, because it's spreading out so much.
Yeah, and like being able to bring some of those, staples that a lot of alumni spent a lot of time and a lot of money at when they were in school, to be able to bring them back. And now the fun part about that is like, I can remember having my kids at games and stopping at Buffalo Louie's and telling them stories about, cover your ears, the free Buffalo Louie's we used to sometimes potentially allegedly get. It's just fun. And it makes it, you're able to connect with some of those places that have been around for a long time, and then go to some new ones that maybe you didn't, that weren't around when those alumni were in school. So it just makes it fun all the way around. And it definitely can't hurt to have some of those options for food. I know the concessions has been a point of emphasis, hopefully to improve on that and the TV situation when people are standing on the concourse out there. I know there's been a lot of complaints over the years about people not being able to catch the game while they go to the concession. So hopefully all that's been improved. And I know Dolson's been working on it pretty hard. So excited to see the changes.
They've done a hell of a job.
Yeah, excited to see those changes.
Well, it brings Indiana one step closer to being in the today because they've been so far behind in virtually every facet of football.
Yep.
I'll be honest with you, but they're trying to get there. Scott's working hard. Scott Dolson, the athletics director, he was on the football show last night. But you've got to give them credit. They've done a hell of a job. Made a hell of a hire in Kurt Cignetti. So things seem to be heading in the right direction right now for IU athletics. Yeah,
I mean, when you mentioned it earlier, there's a lot of things that alumni and fans are going to be excited to watch all season long. It's not just basketball. It's not just football. I mean, the volleyball and soccer soccer's always great. Like, you can always count on them being good and being able to brag about them. Coach Yeagley's just incredible. And that whole family has been so important to IU soccer. But just all of it in general, like, the sports and athletic department is in a great position at Indiana University. And I think we'd be crazy to not give Scott Dolson a ton of that credit, and if not all the credit for that. So yeah, a lot of good, fun, exciting things going on right now at IU, and hopefully this football game tomorrow really. I mean, I think that we all agree they'll win. I think we think that they'll win. I hope it's a really dominating, fun performance that we get to see. You know, these guys. I'm expecting them to see them, you know, throwing the ball all over the field, playing fast, like we see a lot of other SEC teams do every weekend.
Last night, the men's soccer, speaking of which, took on number 8 Notre Dame. That ended in a 2-2 tie that someone went on penalty kicks. I had planned to go to that, but it was delayed because the women played before, and they were delayed because of lightning in the area. So, and after the show, I was going to go over there, but once it kept getting delayed, I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. I've got stuff to do. So that didn't happen. So we'll have to see who actually won that game. Jay Minton says that his app says storms during game from 2 to 4. That is not fun. We could be looking at potential delays.
You're looking at a delay there, yeah.
Or effect on the game. Indiana's like a 3-touchdown favorite in this game, and rain is a great equalizer in the sport of football.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we've had such good weather. I know it's been hot, but I mean, we've had such dry weather. I hope that something like that doesn't affect, you know, the outcome of this first game. This first game is important, not from the win-loss standpoint. Obviously, it would be if they lost, but it's really important from the standpoint of getting things going and the excitement of what, you know, we got some big games coming up. You've talked, you know, a couple times when I've been on here about them possibly being able to start out 6-0. I mean, if that were the case, can you imagine the excitement level this team would have?
Oh, it's going to be incredible. It would
nuts.
continue to climb. Continue to climb. I'm if they were able to get through that unscathed to 6-0, what I'm looking forward to is next up would be Nebraska in Bloomington, then Washington in Bloomington back to back. That could be just nuts. That Nebraska game would be grab big time attention because they should be okay leading up to that as well.
Yeah, you know, it just it would be something that you got to go back quite a ways for, you know, the students actually to have a football program that, you know, I don't want to say you're proud of because you're always proud of them, but one that you can just talk trash about and, you know, have some fun, really supporting and looking forward to going to the games. And I can remember, you know, back when the Anthony Thompson days when I was in school, I mean, the excitement level on a Saturday for football. I mean, when Coach Knight will rearrange his practice schedule so that you're able to go to a football game, you know, it's kind of an important deal. And honestly, that's how I kind of figured out how important the football program was, because Coach Knight would, you know, once our practices started and football season was going on, he would kind of rearrange our schedule so that we could not only take recruits, but be able to go to the football games. And, you know, Coach Knight didn't set his schedule around other things very often. And that tells you how important it was. So.
Well, and giving Coach Knight credit, he was also someone very involved with the university. He cared about the university. He was friends with a ton of the other coaches and had a lot of respect for those guys, especially the golf coach who could never teach him how to swing.
Poor Sam.
Oh man, that you want to talk about some quality videos. If you can dig those up of him.
Oh man.
What was he trying to hit out of the sand? Out of the bunker?
Yeah.
Oh my
those are great.
God.
Those are fantastic.
Well, man, are you going to be able to make it out to the games this weekend, or are you busy?
I'm not. My only busy is going to be sitting on the couch watching as much football as I can. Georgia's on at noon tomorrow, so that'll build my momentum right into the IU game coming on right after that. So yeah, I've got a full day of couch sitting.
And well deserved. Todd Leary, appreciate you from myjumpshot.com. Don't forget, if you know a kid, have a kid, or are a kid and need your jump shot refined, the man to do it, the shot father. Todd Leary, appreciate you, sir.
Enjoyed it. Thanks, buddy.
You betcha. Thank you. Hey, we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. And Zac Osterman will join us later. We're going to hear from the FIU coaches as well and get an understanding of what their thoughts are heading into this weekend. We'll be back with all that and more right after this break.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday as we head into week 1 of the college football season, and I am here for it. Looking forward to talking to Zac Osterman in the next hour, as well as Mitchell Paige, Jeffrey the Greek, as we'll turn our attentions to in that direction. And happy about that, looking forward to it as well. But we do have some clips from Florida FIU's Peeps as they come back to play Indiana. And this game was originally a game that was canceled, I think, because of the hurricane back in the day. And their quarterback kind of reminds me of a young Michael Penix, left-hander, just looks good throwing the ball, and can run a little bit. But no, that's nothing here nor there, just a little irony. But their coach McIntyre talked about Coach Cignetti. He talked about playing at IU. It talked about Indiana's running game. And so let's hear from, this is Coach McIntyre on Cignetti.
Yeah, he comes from a coaching family. He's a coach's kid too. His brother's in the business coaching, and Kurt's done great everywhere he's been. And and he'll end up doing a heck of a job there at Indiana. So he knows how to do it. He's done it multiple times. He has his plan. He'll work his plan, and as he keeps getting players in there. And of course, it's a little different now with the transfer thing, and then him coming from a school and taking a lot of players from that school to the school hasn't happened as much as it has with them this time, I think, as many as it was. It's happened a few times, but specifically from your school following you, I think is interesting. So I think they feel comfortable that they'll be able to kind of get up running quicker because there's more familiarity with their system and the culture that they want to build within this program.
Their quarterback, I mentioned, Keon Jenkins, also in that presser. Let's hear what he had to say.
I see a lot of great things, you know. At Power 5 school, well, Power 4 now. They're not to be taken lightly. We got to lock in a little bit more, you know. They is in the Big Ten, so they're a little bigger. They got a couple bigger guys. But, you know, they're a bunch of guys, you know what I'm saying? Regular dudes just playing football.
Quarterback Keon Jenkins talking about taking on Indiana and acknowledging that they probably will have some bigger size. But that's what those teams like. Linebacker Reggie Peterson also talks about playing IU.
It's definitely exciting. You know, it's nothing like playing against the SEC though. You know, it's nothing like that feeling is beyond real. And just playing in Arkansas, you know, just being a walk on, and you know, the Bronze Burlsworth Trophy, that's there, so it was definitely inspirational. And just seeing all the fans, you know, I have a bunch of people that's texting me that's also from Indiana that can't wait to see me there, and I can't wait to see them too. But it's like, hey, I'm gonna have to kill your hometown real quick before I come and take a picture with you after the game. So please don't hate me, but yeah, I'm excited. It's just an amazing feeling. You know, same colors, big crowd, just like Arkansas. I try to keep every game the same. Even if it's a team on our conference, I try to think of them as a powerhouse team as well, because you can't underestimate anyone.
That's linebacker Reggie Peterson, a linebacker for Florida International, transfer from Arkansas, talking about the similarities of playing at an SEC school and then now playing a Big Ten school, and his excitement for that and his confidence, a little swagger, but you got to have a little of that, right? You can't go in and not have the confidence to take care of what you need to take care of. But we'll see how that actually turns out for the Panthers. So looking forward to getting this thing started, man. And then next week, don't forget, Indiana moves to Friday night for their game next weekend, and which will also give them an extra day of preparation, because the following week after that, they'll play UCLA on the road in Los Angeles. So a lot going on there. Don't forget to get your picks in. Like I said, any games that went on last night, what did you enjoy? Did you watch any of those? And I think I finally fell asleep before the Colorado game was over, but it seemed like it was in hand by the time I fell asleep. I thought for a while, man, it was going to be a potential upset, and but it turns out the game to watch may have been the North Carolina-Minnesota game, which, as we'd said earlier, that was probably one of the better games on, but Minnesota couldn't pull it out, so they lose their opening game at home, no less. That's going to sting, as I'm sure their remaining two non-conference games are probably at home, but now you're looking at being 0-1 with one of your non-con games being a loss. So that's very, very difficult. Indiana found themselves in that position last year when they lost to Louisville. But no worries on that this year. We're starting a new season. I see that Hoosier Connect also has a tailgate giveaway on X.com. Just like and retweet their post to win a custom Hoosier cooler. It's hashtag N4N, IN, the number 4, IN. You get a shirt and a little cooler and a football, looks like. So you got to be following at Hoosiers Connect. Lots going on this weekend, man. It is going to be a blast, like I said, but I am worried about the weather now that someone mentioned that the possibility of us having rain during the game. And as I'm pulling up my own little weather app here now and see what things look like, 67% chance. K-Bro, that's right. The boat is sinking. He's not doing too good a job of rowing, man. They're going to have to row faster. I agree, K-Bro. Friday night is for high school football. I hate Friday night games. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I don't think they should put those in. But what are you going to do? It's about money. You come down to it. Thankfully, they don't do that very often. And won't be seeing much more of it. But scattered thunderstorms in the morning, still becoming widespread in the afternoon. A high of 81. Winds light and variable. Chance of rain 70%. So is this going to affect the crowd? I'm going to have to say yes. The people that are maybe not committed to going yet, that may sway them. Hopefully it doesn't. But more importantly, let's hope that it doesn't affect the performance, because like I said earlier, rain is the great equalizer. It can change things in a heartbeat. And for a team that I'm thinking is probably going to rely on the pass a little more than the run, that could change Indiana's game plan as well. So we'll have to see how that turns out. But looking forward to that. Zac Osterman joining us later, as well as Mitchell Paige, former Indiana football player, and Jeffrey the Greek, as we'll get to go through all of the Big Ten action coming up. Looking forward to it. Hope everybody gets out and gets to enjoy this weekend someplace, enjoy a game, and or stay at home and watch them. I don't have that luxury. We're definitely will be out there, and I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing all of the new things be put in place, hear how people enjoy that at the stadium, hear how that affects things, and all the other. You've got B-Town Boulevard, all that new addition for Indiana fans as well. But most importantly of all, we're looking to see the product, and I hate that there's going to be this potential rain. A couple of reasons. The potential for delays. Lightning delays. Every time there's a lightning strike, 30 minutes, bam. It's like, daggone it. So there's that's what happened last night with the soccer. And by the way, Indiana and Notre Dame ended a 2-2 tie last night. Number 8, Notre Dame. Number 12, Indiana. Notre Dame is 0-2 right now. And ranked in the top 10. Number 12, Indiana is 0-1. So soccer's a weird sport. You can lose or tie and a few times and still be one of the best. It's unique. So we've got that going for us, which is always nice. We've got plenty coming up, plenty of games to talk about. And don't forget to go to ESPN Fantasy tab, pull down the Game Day College Game Picks. The group is Indiana Sports Beat, and the password Signetti24. You can get them all taken care of right there. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and looking forward to it right after this.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria in Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle. Presented. This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, on this Friday, week 1 of the college football season. Zac Osterman from the Indy Star joins us. And Zac, you made, I don't want to say some noise this week, but your predictions for the season were very positive, and not that they shouldn't be. I agree with you wholeheartedly. As I look at this schedule and I try to find losses, normally when I look at the schedule, I'm like, okay, well, this game is probably a loss, that game's probably a loss, and that blah, blah. And you can go on kind of deep. That's not the case for Indiana this year. Not that there aren't going to be those losses, but other than Ohio State and potentially Michigan, you don't really have those games that jump out and say, well, this is a loss, especially now when we haven't seen a snap.
Yeah, I mean, so basically there were a handful of sort of factors I considered. And you know, first and foremost, I would acknowledge up front, like, we don't know. It's harder than ever to peg how these seasons are going to go when there's so many new faces. I mean, you know, Indiana's got a roster that's more than halfway turned over. Washington too. You've got, you know, moving parts in a number of different programs. I'm thinking about Michigan State. I'm thinking about Maryland, you know, to some extent Northwestern. The old sort of rules of thumb around, you know, tracking players as they develop and, you know, sort of projecting a team 12, 24 months out just don't apply anymore. And so there's every chance that, you know, we're all wrong about, I don't know, you know, UCLA, and it turns out they're a really good team, and we just haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen it borne out. But it was sort of a prediction based on, you know, number one, what I felt like I knew today. Number two, it did assume some important things, primarily that that Curtis Rourke would stay healthy, that his offensive line would stay relatively healthy, and that's, you know, that's kind of written in there. And I actually, you know, I mean, for example, I think Indiana might be, based on the progress we've seen Taven Jackson make, I think Indiana might be in a better spot too deep at quarterback than it's been in a couple of years. But Rourke is your proven commodity. Rourke is the guy who's been there, who's done it. He's the one you went out and got in the portal. He's the one that, was just the focus of everything the whole offseason. And so, it kind of has to make that assumption. And then I got into three basic factors, which were, did I think Indiana had the better of the coaching matchup? Did I think Indiana had the better of the quarterback matchup? And did Indiana have home field advantage? When I sort of mixed those up, I came up with 5 games, the 3 non-conference games plus UCLA and Purdue, that I felt Indiana's, got some combination of advantages there. I think Hudson Card's a really good quarterback, for example, but I think Kurt Cignetti's got the experience factor over Ryan Walters, and that game's in Bloomington, so that's why I tilted Indiana over Purdue. I set Michigan and Ohio State over to one side, and I just sort of said, I think we have to assume Indiana's going to lose those games, and that leaves you with 5 games at Northwestern, or in order: Maryland, at Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, and Michigan State. And I could make you a compelling case for Indiana winning any one of those games. I could also, in fairness, make you a compelling case for Indiana losing any one of those games. Nebraska is the sort of team that I could absolutely see being better than we thought, or not necessarily better than we thought, but, not unlike Indiana. Nebraska's got a bit of a favorable schedule. I know people in Lincoln believe firmly in Dylan Raiola, even though he's only a true freshman. Nebraska could be one of those teams we look back on at the end of the season, and they've won 9 or 10 games, and they've had a really, really good year. But on the other hand, Indiana plays Washington in the middle of a pretty ugly stretch for Washington. I'll look it up while we're talking, because I dove a level deeper on these schedules. So Washington, starting on September 14th, Washington hosts Washington State, then it hosts Northwestern, then it goes to Rutgers, then it hosts Michigan, then it goes to Iowa, then it goes to Indiana, then it hosts USC, and then it goes to Penn State. That's a brutal stretch for a first-year head coach who, by his own admission at Media Days, was talking about 1 returning starter and 40-something new players and a whole new staff. That's the sort of stretch that can kind of consume a season. Michigan State plays Indiana at the back end of a stretch that goes at Boston College, Ohio State, at Oregon, Iowa, at Michigan, and then Indiana. And then, in fairness to Michigan State, November's more forgiving. They get Indiana and Purdue at home. They go to Illinois, and they also get Rutgers at home. So maybe Michigan State's telling itself, let's just get to November and we can kind of make our hay there. But the point is, Indiana actually doesn't just have a nice schedule in terms of home games. It also plays some of these teams at good times. And where I ended up breaking was I could see Indiana winning any of those 5 games: Maryland, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State. I could see them losing any of the 5. I basically just gave them the home games. And I just said, I think Indiana will win the home games, lose the road games. You could make a compelling case to me that Nebraska will win in Bloomington. You could make a compelling case to me that Indiana will win in East Lansing. And so I just kind of broke home versus road. That got me to 8-4. And then, I predicted they go to the Music City Bowl because I want to go to Nashville.
And that would be a hell of a matchup with Kentucky. And I know that should have happened a few years ago, actually.
I know that's a bowl matchup that has been discussed at different times. I don't think any ever terribly seriously, but it's been in the mixer for that bowl specifically because you'd get both fan bases down there. It would be a rivalry game. First time they'd played it. If it happened this year, it'd be the first time in 19 years. I sort of took this point from Mike Niziolek, my colleague at the Herald Times, but he made a good point on our podcast when he said he thought if Indiana got into a bowl game, they'd be in a good position from an opt-out perspective because you probably have more guys that would tilt toward opting in because of just the momentum of the season and the excitement and all those different kinds of things, feeling like they were going to achieve something. So that's how I got to 9 wins. I am fully prepared to be proven wrong, but that's kind of in the interest of showing my work. That's kind of how I got where I got to.
And I agree with you because I looked through that schedule. Well, and it's not just the schedule of how it lays out where, who, when, where. It's also what has happened to those programs along the way. UCLA,
how they have changed. Washington, completely different team from last year. So many of the teams have so many differences, and as does Indiana, but it just plays out better for the Hoosiers, it seems, right now. And I agree with pretty much your entire line of thinking. There are games like the Nebraska game that will be 7 weeks or 8 weeks into the season by then. So their true freshman quarterback will no longer really be a true freshman. He'll have a lot of games under his belt. So we'll have a great understanding of how well he is or not playing at that time. Because I've talked about a path to 6-0 for a long time. And if they could get through that, which is possible, but not guaranteed, then you've got back-to-back home games again against winnable teams that could put this season just kind of over the top for Indiana in the first year of the Curt Cignetti era.
Yeah, I mean, momentum, I think, is going to be a part of the season. It's a part of just about any season, and I mean, obviously, if you're Ohio State and the expectation is just to win 11 or 12 games and go to the playoff, like that's different. But for most teams, the rhythm of when you play and when you win and how you build momentum over the course of the season is kind of part of the complexion of any season. So I think about that 8-win season under Tom Allen. When that season kind of takes off, if people remember, they play Ball State, then they play Eastern Illinois, I think, and then UConn, if I'm remembering rightly. Then they get absolutely waxed by Ohio State at home. And then they finish up their non-conference schedule. Maybe it went the other way around. Maybe it was UConn or Eastern Illinois came after Ohio State. Either way, the point is they get to 3-1. They lose at Michigan State in a game that maybe they should win. They play well. It just kind of doesn't break their way. And I remember, I mean, after that game, Tom Allen being like almost on the verge of tears at his frustration that they didn't win the game because it seemed so close. And then they had that stretch where for the first time in like 5 years or whatever it had been, they didn't have any of Ohio State, Penn State, or Michigan all in a 4-game window in the Big Ten calendar. And it was at Maryland, Rutgers, at Nebraska, Northwestern, and they won all of them. And, when they won at Maryland, that was a terrible Rutgers team. But when they won at Maryland, that fed into the idea that they were just going to wipe Rutgers away. And when they beat Rutgers to get to 5-2, it was, they went to Nebraska and it was a huge game. There was a lot of stuff kind of that had gone on between the staffs previous to that I think added some juice to it. But then they beat Nebraska and suddenly it's like, wow, they're 6-2. It's not even Halloween. They're bowl eligible. They're going to a bowl. Then they came home and played, again, a pretty bad Northwestern team. And so it was just like that season, both because some of those teams did not really shape up very well. Nebraska wound up being not as good as we thought. Northwestern, certainly, they'd won the Big Ten East, I think, or West, I believe, the previous year. They certainly did not shape up the way we thought they would. Indiana was able to ride that momentum, and by the time the wave hit shore, Indiana was 7-2, and it was kind of like, well, it's all house money from here. That will always be part of the complexion of a football season, and that's why one of the things that I kind of waited, not waited like I was waiting, but waited like how you place weight on different things. One of the things I waited for looking at Indiana's schedule was the fact that it's not just who they play, it's also kind of when they play them. So even like UCLA is another example where UCLA is going to be at Hawaii this weekend, and then they're going to take the week off. Now, yes, you could say they might be a little bit more rested. Teams do this a lot where they play Hawaii, then they take a week off because the time change, kind of messes with their players' sleep patterns and circadian rhythm so much. And Indiana will have a little bit more on film. But the flip side is Indiana's probably going to be a lot sharper for that UCLA-Indiana game at the Rose Bowl in week 3. So that's probably an advantage. At least I think it is if you use it the right way. It's not just how you play. It's also or who you play. It's also when you play. And you can have these seasons that almost just kind of they take on a certain momentum that just can't be stopped once they get rolling. And I think Indiana could be in a position potentially to do that.
And Kurt Cignetti has really approached this first season and very uniquely, but it's how he always does. But if he has, they talked about it last night on the radio show, even if they have 2 hours for practice, if he feels like they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish in an hour and a half, hour and 45, that's it. They stop, which is not how any coach I ever played for ran things. They tried to milk every minute out of that. And he does the opposite. He tries to, seems like, take the stress off and say, hey, all right, that's what we want. And which is a very unique approach to things. And I think that hopefully he wants that to carry over in games with his players to where they don't feel the need, the pressure to do stuff, but rather the ability to do it.
No, and I think you've seen players who have said, this has made a big difference in their minds, that, that not being so sort of wedded to the idea of just being at practice until the absolute last moment or whatever is making a big difference for them. As with anything, I think it's from a coach's perspective, it's just about trusting your process, and just, there's no reason Kurt Cignetti wouldn't trust his, certainly, but it's just about sort of saying, like, what has worked for you in the past? Why has it worked for you in the past? Don't break from that, just because you're in the Big Ten, or maybe there's a little bit more media attention. You feel like you got to perform for the networks or something. Don't worry about that. And then from a results perspective, I always just say, like, it'll be borne out in whether you win or lose. People will call it successful if you win. They'll call it a failure. They'll call it foolish if you lose. I think we can, and I'm not picking on Tom at all. I think that we can look back at Kurt Cignetti's immediate predecessor, though, and when Indiana was winning, Tom Allen's intensely positive, inclusive, love each other, mantra message was incredibly well received. It was incredibly popular within the fan base. It gave Indiana a certain cultural agency in national college football. It was, it lent Indiana the idea that it was doing something special. And then when the losses started piling up, it was, oh, this is all just fluff and crap. And, it's a slogan to put on a T-shirt because you can't win games. The point is, I can see the value of what Cignetti does with his practices, not tackling a lot, keeping them a little bit shorter. Also maybe not just from a physical perspective, but also from a mental perspective, sort of, training guys to just sort of say, like, hey, we got to move a little quicker. We need to be on time. We need to be nimble. We need to focus. We need to make the most of every minute, because we're not going to sit out here and just do it over and over and over again until you get it right. And then, every practice runs over by 20 minutes. But on the other hand, again, it will be embraced if he wins. It will be condemned if he loses. And that's just kind of par for the course for a coach.
Absolutely. And heading into this weekend, well, the one thing that could pop up to affect things unexpectedly is the weather, and not the heat that has been laying in the central Indiana area over the last week. But now we thought that there was going to be a storm front that came through in the morning and cooled things down, and that still could be the case. But now there is the expectation that there could be scattered storms in the afternoon as well during game time.
Yeah, I don't think, as a coach, one of the most important things you can do as a coach in any sport at any level is just worry about what you can control. It's a completely different level, but I talk a lot about that with my riders and my buddy I coach with for Little Five. We'll get closer to race day and somebody will be stressing about something, and we'll just say, we can't control that. just leave that alone. Now, most coaches will spend some time in the preseason practicing with a wet football, and they'll try to slick the football up in whatever ways that they can, just to try and simulate the idea of being, protecting the ball better, making sure that you snap the ball clean, even when it's wet, even when it's raining, whatever. But when it comes to stuff like weather delays, beyond having and potentially playing in bad weather, beyond having, an established procedure for what you do if suddenly, like, the game goes to a lightning delay, if suddenly you have to run back in the locker room for 30 minutes, how do you keep guys, warm? How do you keep them focused? How do you keep them loose? Other than that, like, you don't worry too much about weather because you can't control it. So I think that, that could definitely factor in. That's always a consideration this time of year when, we're kind of dealing with the late summer thunderstorms and, little bits and pieces and fronts moving through. But I think Cignetti, more than anything else, will just sort of say, I can't stop the rain, so I'm just going to focus on what I can control.
Absolutely. What are you expecting tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I put like scores down, and obviously who knows what the actual score will be. I had Indiana, I think, only winning this game by 17. And then I had them beating Western Illinois by something like 44 or 45. And the idea was, I think the spread on this is somewhere around 20, 21 points.
Yep.
I just think, these week one games are often kind of defined by mistakes. And Indiana, the positive for Indiana is they're in a position where they can afford to go out and make some and still probably win the game with a certain degree of comfort. That was what, I think that was what Tom Allen always lamented not having when he had to open with Big Ten opponents was, a game like that Ball State game, for example, in 2019, where Indiana goes up to Indianapolis, doesn't play particularly well. Michael Penix throws a couple picks. I think after the game, Kane Womack comes out and says, we had like 16 tackles that we missed that could have knocked like 175 yards off of Ball State's total. But Indiana wins the game. It wins it by double digits. It's never really troubled. And it winds up being, kind of this game that really allows Indiana to, just kind of work a lot of the kinks out. I have a buddy who I feel like I've told the story on here before, but I have a buddy who's in the Air Force, and he's in a flight test group. And what that particular sort of section does is take planes up in the air and look for flaws, what they call them gremlins in the system, whether it's something mechanical, something technical, something computer related, just finding stuff that could go wrong when the plane is in a combat situation and fixing it. And so that when the plane goes up in a combat situation, it is performing at optimal level. That's what these games will do, I think, if they're handled correctly for Indiana. Is you can go find the gremlins and you can get rid of them. And I wouldn't be shocked, especially if there is some weather, if Indiana's a little sloppy tomorrow, if it's never quite as resounding or commanding as maybe people would want it to be. But if it, at the end we say Indiana made some mistakes, broke through some bad moments, the result was still never terribly in doubt. Everybody just kind of, was able to kind of try and fail a little bit without there being any real peril or risk. And I think that's probably where Indiana winds up. I wouldn't be shocked if FIU covers, but, or keeps it within the spread, or I don't gamble enough to know the terminology there, but, I wouldn't be shocked if Indiana doesn't cover the spread, but still wins comfortably.
Yeah,
there's
I
some
agree.
mistakes and things to build on, but generally everybody kind of walks away feeling good.
Especially with the weather potential and being the first game, you never know. We saw that last night with some teams giving other teams heck. Zac Osterman from the Indy Star. I'll see you out there at Memorial Stadium on Saturday. Looking forward to it.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Thank you, sir. Zac Osterman from the Indy Star. Be a subscriber and make sure you're following Zac. We've got to take a break. Up next, the man, Mitchell Paige, will join us as we will start to break down what we expect to see this weekend. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this break.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Friday with our man Mitchell Paige. How are you, brother?
I'm awesome, man. How are you? And I do apologize.
Great.
I've got some stuff going on in the background, but I'm excited to be on the show.
That's okay. What I do see in the background are at least 2 sets of golf clubs.
3.
Easily.
3.
Well,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I see the other third one hidden behind.
Yeah,
Is that
right
for the baby?
Yeah, we're set. When she's ready to start swinging, we'll be out there. I can promise you that.
As it should be. So we're doing some renovations, getting things ready for the family to continue to grow.
Yeah, man. I just bought a house. I guess not just bought, but been a couple months now. And we're starting to put our stamp on it. It's an old house just in the center of Indianapolis. I don't think it's been renovated since the 70s, so you can imagine what it looks like. But we're excited. Mostly excited to be back here. I keep saying it, but Indy's a great time, and especially now, I haven't been this excited for a football season, and I can't tell you how long. It's weird. It took me some time. I was always excited to watch IU, and I cheered for them like crazy, believed they'd win every game. But since I graduated, I just was over it, kind of. The whole football scene. I'd watch so many snaps when I'm watching film, just all different plays, all different teams. I needed a little break from it. And in the last month, call it, I have just felt myself with a renewed energy for college football as a whole. And I don't know if that's because I got some excitement for the teams that I care about, but I cannot wait for tomorrow. Listening to Zac talk a little bit just before this about just what he expects and the Signetti era. It's just it's a really fun time to be in Indiana, and I think there's some really cool things on the horizon for the team we love the most. What about you?
I agree. I mean, we had just talked to Zac Osterman, and all preseason I've talked about the fact that not only do I expect a winning season for Indiana, but I expect more than that because of a number of things, including the schedule, which is amazing. 8 home games, and but these games that are winnable, a lot of them, more so than usually when I look at a schedule, the first thing that it's easy to do, you can say, well, that's a loss, that's a loss, that's a loss. That's not the case. There are a couple, actually, there's only one defined loss on that schedule, the entire schedule, that I would say is probably a defined loss, and that's against Ohio State.
Yeah.
Michigan has become a question mark because I don't know what Michigan's going to be like. They lost a ton, and they've got a ton going on there as well.
Yeah, there's a bunch of outside noise, and I think that the media is really trying to tear him down. Now, it's a little easier than I think people would like to believe to keep all of that outside the building. My guess is their practices look very similar to the way they did last year, but with a lot less talent. I think that there's still some really good players in there. It's going to be a tough game for Indiana, but you're exactly right. You can't ask for more as a coach in terms of schedule for your first year when you're trying to figure things out. You get a couple, don't want to say cupcakes, it's still Division I football, and we saw what happens. And now North Dakota State's a little different team than some of the teams Indiana's playing, but you saw what happens when you come out and get punched in the mouth by an FCS school. They can take you down to the wire just like North Dakota State did to Colorado last night. So they have to take care of business, but things are shaping up to where they can really gain some confidence when they start getting into some of the tougher games of the year. And it really plays a big factor in your day-to-day preparation when you've had some wins, you've got some momentum, and you have some belief in the building. Now you start looking at a team like Michigan that probably at position to position has more talent, but who knows where the season will be? Who knows what we're playing for? It makes those games not a toss-up, but it goes from 80-20 to maybe 65-35. And that's all you really need, especially in the Big Ten late in the season. So they've got a chance, but then on the flip side, I'm curious. I was on another show talking about this. I'm curious your take. I've almost become more nervous not more nervous than excited, but pretty nervous just because of the way that Curt Cignetti has introduced himself to the Big Ten, kind of as I'm better than you, and I know it, and I'm going to show you. And because we haven't seen him show it yet, I still feel like I'm sitting a little bit on pins and needles just because of the way he carries himself. Now, usually I'd love it if it was, I don't know. I think next year after he's had some proof in the pudding, we'll like it a lot more, but it just makes me nervous. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, but I the way that this is being handled, the way this coaching staff is approaching everything, the way Curt Cignetti has approached everything, it's no different than what he's done before. And so he is going into it with that confidence. But I think that because of all the things that I've talked about, that everything is coming in and connecting for Indiana.
I think that's what makes me nervous, is it has been so seamless. I talked to Don Fisher a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, Don, just give me and I'm sure he said it on this show too, just give me the truth. Give me the rundown. What are things looking like? And he told me he's never seen a more impressive coach when it comes to efficiency, progress, command of a program than Curt Cignetti in his 40-plus years of doing games for the Hoosiers. And to hear something like that, to hear everybody talk about how everything is gelling, I think this is every sports fan. As soon as you hear things are just going so well, you just start getting nervous instead of excited.
Well, I know that Indiana fans are, because half of them are still expecting
or saying, hey, I'll believe it when I see it. They're not going to we're not falling for that crap again kind of a deal. You don't have to go back very long. I understand that. But this is, I keep telling people, I go, this is not Indiana. This is not, last year Indiana was 1-8 in the Big Ten, was a 3-9 overall, whatever. This is not that team. This is not that staff. This is a completely different team. Not only that, they have a completely different schedule. Everything is different, and I am really looking forward to it because Cignetti is just different in so many ways. Earlier I was talking about most coaches I ever played for, have been around, they will squeeze every second out of every practice they're allowed to have. Cignetti's not like that. If he feels like they have accomplished what they needed to accomplish in a particular practice, he stops. It's over. And I've never seen or heard of that. That has to give confidence to the players. I'm like, wow, he has confidence in us and the confidence of we're doing it right. So I think all of that it's like a growing process. It's almost like bringing up your child in essence.
Yeah. And I think I've been a little, I've referenced the other show I was on. I was a little harsh on him, I think, and I didn't mean to be, but you don't see coaches that are that outwardly confident very often. And I just haven't seen it with my own eyes. I just haven't made it down to a practice. So it's like what you can't see, you get kind of nervous for, right? And he's doing everything that you're supposed to do. You hear how practices are run at the highest level, how guys are working, how things are, I'm going to keep using this word, efficient. And it feels like Indiana is that way. They brought in a ton of talent. James Madison was one of the best teams in college football last year. They really were, maybe not at the top echelon, but if you look at however many teams, they're definitely in the top 25% of that. And you bring a ton of their best players to the Big Ten. You've got a super favorable schedule. There's just so many things that are laid out in front of him that seems like the stars have really aligned for him to have a great season this year and then really hit the ground running recruiting for next season and the season following, because there is the NIL bucket that is bigger than people think, and maybe not anymore, but it used to be bigger than people think. I think people know how big it is now, but there's just so many awesome things that can be in front of us. It's just such a stark contrast from the way that we were feeling going into last year. I think that's where more of my nerves come from, because I'm used to feeling like, God, I think last year at this time we were talking about, let's just go out and show we're tough. Let's just fight. I don't even care if we win. Let's just fight. And now you've changed the expectation so much where there's a realistic chance that they could be 6-7-0, and you don't even know, and they haven't really had a bump in the road yet. You don't know what it's like to face some adversity. They could get rolling, and there's some teams on their schedule that they could just roll over. We haven't seen a ton of teams, but watch Rutgers. They don't look overly impressive. They handle their business a little bit, but Howard was not very good. You can see a scenario where they're doing some things that are a little unprecedented for the program. So I think that's more where my nerves come from. And then outside of the program, people are coming up to me asking about Cignetti, asking about some of the stuff that he said, that forget Ohio State, Michigan, and Purdue sucks too. That made waves on a national level. So it's nervous excitement, but I think there's going to be a serious identity. I think they're going to play fast on defense. I remember when Bryant Haynes was on staff when I was actually playing. He was only there for a year, but he was just a grad assistant. And you talk to him and some of the ideas he had even back then, and now he's just gotten better and better, followed Cignetti around at basically every stop. They're going to fly around the ways that they used to at Kane Womack. And I'm hoping that their identity is defense, and then the offense is able to chug along more Big Ten style. We'll see, but they've got some playmakers. It's a really fun time to be an Indiana fan. I think that was a lot of rambling from me, but I've got a lot of thoughts.
Well, that's what we're here for, to talk about it, because there's been, man, just go back to 2021. I understand we went to Iowa. It was the opening game of the season, and there was so much confidence that was going to be an unbelievable season for Indiana. And boom, they get punched right in the mouth.
Hard
and
repeatedly.
And Michael Penix Jr. wasn't Michael Penix Jr. at the time. And the offensive line, the struggles and all of that. But boy, that just goes sideways. I just don't see that. This is a different time too. The portal wasn't what it is now then. And so, and a lot of these guys that Indiana's brought in, they brought in not only good players, but players that also fit what Cignetti is trying to accomplish. A lot of those guys that came in from JMU, they're already on that page. They understand that. And if you look at several of these guys, Pro Football Focus doesn't play favorites. Indiana was the only team that had 3 guys ranked in the top 10 of all the defensive transfers in the country. That says a lot.
I didn't even know that. Obviously that's true, but that goes to show. And we didn't go out and get a bunch of transfers from Alabama and Auburn and Ohio State. It was a bunch of guys that are exactly what you say. They fit his system, guys that Cignetti knows. He's confident in what he's doing, and now it's time to go show it, right? You never know. But I do want to touch, I thought it was interesting what you and Zach were talking about in terms of scheduling and scheduling a maybe lesser opponent first. I do understand it. But I thought that did Tom Allen say something about that? That's interesting if he said we need to start scheduling weaker opponents first. Is that true?
I don't know if he said it, but
it was inferred.
They bought their way out of the Louisville game for this year. But I think that was a wise move for this year. You're playing 9 conference games. The Big Ten is one of the only conferences that does that. Maybe the ACC, I can't recall. The SEC doesn't. They play 8, which gives them 4 non-con games to schedule. So they can go out and schedule a decent non-con game, but that still gives them 3 cupcakes, basically. So when you're playing non-conference games, you don't need to make it any more difficult. Look at Purdue's schedule, for example. They're going to be hard-pressed to make a bowl game this year, partly because they've got 3 non-conference games. One's Indiana State. They're going to blow them out. But they have to travel to Oregon State, and Notre Dame comes to Purdue. Both of those are going to be very, very difficult games to win.
Yeah. And I think that there's 2 sides to the coin, right? Especially when now being in the Big Ten gives you a huge advantage because you're in one of the premier conferences in the country. All you're going to see is it move to more 2 super conferences. Who knows what it'll look like in 10 years, but I'm thinking 100% in terms of recruiting and national relevance. I thought the Louisville game was great. I really did. Indiana had a bad team and still almost beat them. You play a game like that. Louisville's in the ACC championship game. That's something you can point to say, hey, this is where we're at. We can use you to help us get over the hump, And when you don't, and this is probably selfish as a fan, I don't actually have to be in the building and playing the game. So I do want to preface what I'm about to say with saying I know that it's not the smart way to do it. But a game like Louisville or a game like Kentucky, find a way to get those on the schedule. It just makes the season a lot more fun. It doesn't really have any point. There's no benefit, really. You can point to the games in recruiting. If you beat a team like Louisville, beat a team like Kentucky from the SEC, this is kind of the trajectory we're on. Come join us. But now that I say it out loud, I think that's just more of a selfish. I had a lot of fun watching them play Louisville last year, especially with Jeff Brom down there. I think they're going to be a problem. So maybe it's probably.
I agree. They're ahead of where where Indiana is. Indiana's where a lot of teams in the Big Ten are right now. And we'll talk about that and more when we come back. We've got to take a quick break. Mitchell Paige is with us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, Week 1 pregame show. I guess you can call it that. Brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. We're back with more with Mitchell Paige and football for this weekend right after this. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of any more Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to anymoreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle. This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg.
Welcome back on this Friday before week 1 of the college football season, and I am here for it, baby. Last night, did you get to watch any football, Mitchell? Mitchell Paige with us, former who's your player right now?
I did, and we had some unfortunate series of events last night, and I'm going to tell it. Nobody cares about gambling stories, but bad beats are always awesome, right?
Oh, that's actually one of my favorite things to watch with Stephen Van Pelt. It's awesome. It's
great. So I'm going to be quick, but anytime I get a big spread, it just is so exciting to me. I love the sweat. You feel like you can sweat it the whole game. So I talked about Rutgers. Rutgers was giving away 38.5 to Howard yesterday. Rutgers goes, I think, 4 and out, 5 and out. I think they run 5 plays, punt it. Howard's just taking it to them. I think they got 2 long third downs. They're going in to score. I'm feeling good about it. I go to bet Howard. I feel like they're going to win the game. So right as I go to bet, it was at 38.5. I'm pressing bet, and Howard throws the pick 6. So then the spread goes to 36.5. And if you know about this game, don't spoil it. The spread is now 36.5. Bet's locked in. Sweat it the whole game. Rutgers has the ball on like the 10-yard line with 6 seconds left in the game, up 38-7. So do some quick math there in your head, right? Up 31 points. 6 away from me losing my bet. All they have to do is take a knee. And instead they run it right up the middle. and he runs into the end zone as time expires. So I lose. That was my first bet of the year, and I get bad beated to the moon. And so unfortunate series of event. I also had Minnesota plus 1.5 last night. They lost by 2 on a missed field goal from 42 yards. So it was a bad night of betting, but yeah, like I said, I'm more excited to watch college football in any capacity this year than I've been since my freshman or sophomore year of high school.
Yeah, I'm jacked. What was your favorite game last night? I mean, that Colorado, they were on the ropes for a while, down at the half to North Dakota State, and then North Carolina State losing almost into the fourth quarter against Western Carolina. And then Minnesota shows you how quickly North Carolina can show you, even though they won the game because Minnesota missed that field goal. They lose their starting quarterback last night on game 1.
Yep, and it didn't look good either. So, it just so many things can happen, and that's why it's so fun to talk about Indiana, and you just never know. You never know. Anything can happen tomorrow, but there were so many funny plays. The interception for North Dakota State last night that hits off the guy's foot, bounces into the air. Minnesota fumbling the ball right to their teammate, and he gets like 20 more yards. College football is just the best. I can't wait to gamble it. I've really toned it down. I used to not like $50 a game or something, but like $10-15. I'm on much smaller stakes now. But it's back. You just get some excitement sitting on the couch all day on Saturday. You got any picks this week?
Well, we've got the picks for the ISB quick college pick'em deal that's set up. A lot of the games in there. Georgia and Clemson is one of those. Right now, that is at 11.5 with Georgia, obviously.
Is that game in a neutral site?
Yes, it is. It's in Atlanta, if you can consider that a neutral site. Isn't Clemson in South Carolina? Yeah.
Yeah, so, but not very far. It's West South Carolina, so I'd say it's probably pretty close. And those Clemson fans travel well. Clemson fans are nuts, man. I know from my time living down there, they're crazy. So that'll be an awesome one. Georgia's a problem. Who do you got? So I think you know this. My team growing up, my dad's from Miami, Florida. So my team growing up was the University of Miami. I wanted to be a Hurricane really badly. I have a funny story about that, but I'll save it for
I did not know that. I don't know that I knew that.
Oh, yeah. So that was my childhood dream. I wanted to play there. My room was green, white with an orange ceiling. That was my squad. And I grew up, so I would have been 8 years old for the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. That's the best team ever assembled. So it was really easy to gravitate towards them because they won 55 home games in a row. They beat teams by 1 million, and they were winning national championships. So that made it a lot easier to cheer for them when I had the connection through my pops, who was a diehard Miami fan. But they go to Florida this week, Gainesville. Miami's got a bunch of hype, as much hype as I can remember them having in 15 years. New era, the transfer portal allows teams to go from really bad to really good really quickly, especially when they've got a kitty like the University of Miami with some shady billionaires that are doing, I'm sure, some shady stuff that we'll find out about in 15 years. But for now, it's really exciting. College football playoff, even ACC champion expectations for the Hurricanes. But Florida's tricky. Gainesville's tricky. It's the swamp. They've got a bunch of talent. I think their quarterback is no bueno, but he's played a lot. He played a lot better at the end of the season. I want to hear your thoughts on the Hurricanes and the Gators.
Well, it's time for the Hurricanes to either do it or not, and for Florida. I mean, I think their coach is on the hot seat as well, so that should be a fun matchup because it's a tough place to play, but Miami's probably going to be favored. Yeah, there we go right there. Miami, 2.5-point favorite on the road in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. That's a tough place to be a favorite in. So, but I'd go with Miami on that one.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of what we're talking about with Indiana and Louisville, right? Indiana drops Louisville, who's got some talent, but made a great run last year with good quarterback play. Who knows what they're going to be? They drop them for FIU and Western Illinois, and who else do they even play? Charlotte, teams like that. And Miami schedules Florida at the Swamp. And Miami's also in a different position, obviously. They play in an ACC where the perception of the conference isn't what the Big Ten is. So they don't have 9 conference games that they can lean on in terms of strength of schedule to get them into the playoff. But you can't ask for much more than that. Going to the Swamp is supposed to be like 105 degrees and maybe 200% humidity. So I can't wait. 3:30, both games. I'll have two TVs up. Can't wait.
Look, Indiana, 21.5-point favorite with potential storms coming through. That's the only that's the thing I'm curious about. But I still think Indiana, I think their offense is too multi-dimensional, even though it's early. They have too much. I think that they're going to cover the spread in this game and win it. We'll see, but that's just my thoughts going into it.
Yeah. What I'll tell you, since we talked a little gambling, and I've seen some comments, people don't care for gambling, but I do. I
think there's some trolling going on. Who knows?
That's okay. I like it. But we talk about wet weather games, and storms are different. Obviously, that kills everything. You got to go in, sit inside. But our biggest offensive games were when it was drizzling just a little bit. The field was wet. There was a little drizzle, but the ball gets really soft and grippy. So that you're in that moment of dry to soaked. Now, if it's a downpour, obviously that's a little different. The ball gets heavy. It's really hard to catch that football, but
it's hard to throw it too.
Really hard to throw it. That just becomes a muck it up game. Our offensive line's better than your defensive line kind of strategy. But if there's a little bit of rain, I think it could be really beneficial for Indiana with all that skill on the outside and a lot of speed. I think you'll see him start to open up the playbook more. Quarterback gets a little confident. I think that if it's just a little drizzle, I think you smash the over. I don't even know what it is, but you just see so much more speed and explosive plays in those little drizzle weather games for whatever reason. At least that was my experience in 5 years or whatever.
The over and under is 51.5.
I smash it. If it's drizzling.
Really?
If it's drizzling, yeah. I do. And I'll send you those receipts too. If it's drizzling, I'll take it in the morning. It's got to drizzle. If it doesn't, who knows? But I'm telling you, the ball just gets a little grippier. It flies a little better out of the quarterback's hands. I'm hoping for a little bit of drizzle. Keep the storms away, the lightning and thunder. But if we can just get a little rain, it's going to be a lot more high-octane offense than people would expect.
Oklahoma State, number 17 Oklahoma State, is hosting South Dakota State, the two-time defending FCS champion. We saw what North Dakota State did last night at Colorado.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma State is a 10-point favorite. I think that's going to be a fun game to watch because South Dakota State is a dangerous offensive team.
Yeah, that's not the game you want to start the season. It's not going to Florida, but it's close. That's a team that knows how to win, has shown that they know how to win. They've got a culture. They're going to go into Oklahoma State expecting to win that game, not just put up a fight, similar to the way that North Dakota State does. They've proven that they can win at a high level. And the difference between a really high-level FCS team and a middle-of-the-pack FBS team is maybe a couple guys. There's a ton of talent on that roster. If I'm a Cowboys fan, you saw that come up on the schedule and you cringe a little bit. You don't want to see them. Now, I think Oklahoma State will win. They're a really good team, but it's going to take a lot more effort than in some other scenarios.
I agree. Are there any other games that you already picked out that you were really curious about tomorrow besides Indiana?
The Miami game, of course. I'll be
okay. Besides the Miami game, you got to quit playing with your microphone.
Do I?
Yeah.
Why?
Every time you move it, it makes a sound.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
This thing's getting old. This is a $20 Amazon one. I need to get.
It sounds awesome. It sounds great.
Okay. How about this? Is this better?
Yeah.
To be honest, I haven't really taking a look at the slate. I know that Georgia and Clemson's a big one. I know Florida State's got some rebounding to do. Notre Dame, Texas A&M, two programs that, and I hate to say this, are similar to Indiana basketball, where the fan base expects them to be a lot better than I think they are. And I'm a huge IU basketball fan, but that's just kind of the way that we've been over the last 10 years. We have these high expectations and we always fall short of it. Those are two programs that are exactly the same way. Notre Dame, high aspirations. Texas A&M, high aspirations. It'll just be a fun game of the who can do mediocre better. I'm excited.
Yeah, the Big Ten, not a lot of games, I think, in the Big Ten that will affect the season, although it'd be interesting to see Northwestern taking on a Miami of Ohio team, Nebraska, to see what some of these teams that are on Indiana's schedule are going to be like. UCLA, obviously, one of the teams that it's their first Big Ten game, so it's going to be interesting to see what their play like, because they have one game before playing Indiana. Then they have a bye, and they travel to Hawaii to play that game this week, and then they're off until the Indiana game. So that's going to be interesting to see how UCLA comes out.
Yeah, kind of a hinge point for the Hoosier season, it feels like. When you look at all 12
I've said
games,
that all along. That's
the one that you point
there's
to.
a path to 6-0, but that game has to be won to get to 6-0.
There's also a path to 2-4 if you go out to UCLA and lay an egg. You talk about momentum and riding highs, going into the Rose Bowl, a famous stadium, and beating a famous team. I don't think they're as good as they used to be, but it's a great place to make your mark on the new Big Ten.
Yep. Mitchell Paige, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it, brother. I thank you so much, and hopefully we'll get to talk tomorrow if you're available after the game, so we can wrap up to see what happened with week one of the Indiana football season and game one of the Kurt Cignetti era.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Me either, brother. I hope you have a good one. And big thanks to everybody for joining us today. Thanks to Todd Leary, Zac Osterman, Mitchell Paige, of course. We're looking forward to it. To tomorrow for being out at the stadium. Tune in to the YouTube channel for pre or post game shows that we can get out there, and looking forward to it. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.